From the mid-1800s to the mid-1900s, the Fox River of Wisconsin was a major source of commerce moving people and goods. And this river, the Fox River, was very, very busy moving things from Montello to Green Bay and back. To keep the water high, they put dams in, and then they put locks in, which was like an elevator to move boats up and down the heights of the river. They dredged the river until the 1950s, and what really killed the river in terms of moving commerce was the train. So today, the river is really just for recreation, and a lot of people don't go on this river. So we're going to go from here all the way up to Marquette, the next town up. So right beside the entrance to the lock is a boat launch that lets people go to the west and upstream up to Lake Puckaway and to the town of Marquette. And this is the way that we're going to go in just a little bit. So we put into the water on the boat launch there to the left, and there is the old lock there on the right. And now we're going to turn around and head toward Marquette, going this way that parallels Oxbow Trail and goes by some of the houses that have boats on the water. So from the Princeton Dam, the water flows west. I said going upstream, but when you look at it geographically, it's actually going south because the Fox River actually flows north. So we're going to be going west right now from the Princeton Dam along Oxbow Trail, the road that hugs the river for about a mile, and now it's going to cut north and leave Oxbow Trail and head towards Route 23, actually. This is a place where we often see eagles. You're looking for a thick, upright mass in the trees that don't have leaves. That's where the eagles hang out. The Fox River is 200 miles long from where it begins before Montello all the way to Green Bay. We're heading west in the river, and just on the other side of that trailer park is Route 23 coming out of Princeton. So we're hugging Route 23 for a short distance until we get to a bend where we start going south towards Puckaway. This area is one of the most shallow areas of the river. You have to be very careful because it's less than 2.5 feet deep. What I love about this segment of the Fox River is there's no development, which means there's no homes or businesses or anything constructed. You're all out in nature by yourself, and I think that's just awesome. It also provides for some spectacular sunrise and sunset pictures. The Fox River now is going to cease going west and hugging Route 23 and is now going to head south towards Lake Puckaway. Since they quit dredging the Fox River, it is very shallow in some places, less than 2.5 feet deep. And when that happens, my depth meter goes crazy until it actually gets deep again. We are fast approaching one of my favorite points of the river for two reasons. The more superficial one is there's always a lot of turtles that are up on the logs that you can see. The second reason is we had a dear friend and his wife go with us on the river, and then he subsequently passed away prematurely. And so some of his ashes were spread here, which I think is the most beautiful part of the river. And then you find along the river there's not a lot of rules and regulations. Like there is this beautiful pontoon boat in the cover, and then right beside it is this. I'm surprised that the Wisconsin DNR does not make that go. And then we go past another housing development along the river before leaving that and heading back out to where there's nothing again for another mile or two. I find this floating hunting stand to be quite interesting. This is one of my favorite places in the river. Let me show you why. We are out here where you really can't see anybody, and you really don't hear anybody, and you're just on the river, and it's really wide. It's a great place to anchor. We've anchored before and had meals here, watched the World Cup here, and then when we're done, we pull up the anchor and head back. After a mile or more of no housing or any buildings, we start coming back into an area where there are some. And then 5.5 miles upstream of the Princeton Dam is this boat launch, which is a public boat launch on Ferry Road that is very popular. Some people leave their piers in the river all year round, and you can sometimes see the damage that the river flow does when it turns into ice. It is not unusual to see lots with campers on them instead of houses. The water lilies are very pretty, especially when they bloom. And some people have really long boardwalks to get to their docks. As we get closer to Lake Puckaway, you see more and more houses taking advantage of the river and the lake. The Fox River and Lake Puckaway are so shallow that oftentimes you have to have your engine pitched up a little bit. It can't be all the way down. But that allows you to go pretty fast, which you need to do because there's a lot of vegetation that will slow up your boat. So you lift your motor up and you go about 10 miles an hour and you can power through as we're getting closer and closer to Lake Puckaway itself. And finally, after leaving the Princeton Dam about 50 minutes ago, we're at the far northeast corner of Lake Puckaway. Remember those eagles that we saw way back when? We believe these are their nests on the far northeast corner of Lake Puckaway. Because Lake Puckaway is so shallow, mostly from 3 to 6 feet deep, it doesn't have the development like, let's say, Green Lake has. So there are miles of coastline with just nature and not houses. And now we have crossed the lake to the south side, and we are nearing the village of Marquette. Lake Puckaway has a number of these strips of land sticking out. And a couple years ago, we found pelicans parking there for the summer. So now we're getting close to downtown Marquette and the one public pier that at least I know about that we go and stop at sometimes. So the Princeton Dam is that way, and we've come through that onto Lake Puckaway. We've gone 11.9 miles, and now we're at the public pier. And we're going to walk down this street. There's a little restaurant down here that we sometimes go to. Let's go. And now it's time to head back to the Princeton Dam. So it's taken me a return trip and a total of 15 miles to see the first other boat out on the river today. I love this segment of the Fox River between the Princeton Dam and Marquette. It is peaceful, it is calm, there are so many nature settings, and I think it's just beautiful. And now we return back to where we began at the lock and the boat launch, and I hope you enjoyed this tour.